Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining and welcome you all to our new course of this SPCOR, Cisco SPCOR. This is one of the exam that a person has to clear in order to learn service provider networking and if someone wants to achieve CCI service provider, this is also a prerequisite. This also acts as a written exam. Okay, so my name is Gaurav, and I'm having 20 plus years of experience into networking domain, all into network deployment, designing, transformation as well. And I've got chance to work on several large-scale service provider customers and put them in their network transformations. So I'll be taking you through this course. Okay, let's start with the uh, some of the course sections that uh, we'll be covering. Let me start sharing my screen. Hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. So this course has been divided into at a broad level. It has been divided into six different sections. Okay, first section it talks about your architecture. So within this architecture, we'll be covering our service provider architectures. Okay, it will be focusing only on the service provider architectures like what is MPLS, what is unified MPLS, what is segment routing, then traffic engineering, SR, V6. What are the difference between them? Why they evolved and how they evolved? Okay, what are their uh, merits and demerits? Okay, similarly, in from Cisco perspective, there are you must have heard that in service provider or enterprise network, we have different operating systems like iOS, iOS XE, and XR. Okay, apart from this data center, we have NXOS also, but that will not be covering. But uh, few things about how these software architecture differentiate with each other and which one is predominantly being used in our service provider stuff that we'll be using. Okay, and then some of the things around quality of service that we'll be covering in the architecture domain. Okay, how this access segregation core, what does that mean? Okay, there are, I mean, slight difference between when we talk about an access layer and aggregation layer and a core layer as compared to an enterprise or a data center with in service provider. So it's a little bit different that we'll be covering. Sure. Okay, similarly, in our second section, that is purely about our networking. Okay, that in this, we'll be covering routing protocols like ISIS and OSPF. These are the two predominantly used routing protocols in our service provider core network that we will be covering. And this is, I'm telling you with respect to whatever curriculum has been published by Cisco itself for this particular exam. Okay. Apart from OSPF and ISIS, we'll be covering BGP in detail with IP version 4 as well as IP version 6. Okay, all the I mean the topics coming under the BGP with respect to service provider that will be covered in detail. Okay, then few uh, uh, advanced concepts like what is BFT, what is link aggregation, non-stop forwarding, non-stop routing, that also we'll be covering. And this section itself, I mean, the brief about segment routing and MPLS will be covering. And then the third section, this is the details about how MPLS evolved, what is LDP, and how label distribution protocol helps in achieving that MPLS domain, and what are the benefits with respect to pure IP network and versus a label switching network. Why MPLS came into picture. Okay, this concept-wise plus the configuration and all implementation will be seen in the lab. Okay, here we will also cover the traffic engineering concepts and segment routing. Okay, segment routing, uh, uh, there are two flavors of segment routing, SRMPLS, which is which uses MPLS as a data plane and IPv4 as your control plane. And SRv6 is your IPv6 based segment routing. So SRv6 will be covering in theory only. I won't be able to cover, and that is not there in our curriculum itself. SRv6 as a, the hands-on. Guys who doesn't have any question, please go on mute. So far, any questions from anyone? All right. So moving ahead, next section is about services. So within services, we'll be covering in detail about layer 2 VPN, layer 3 VPNs, inter-AS VPN, okay, career supporting career. All these we will be covering in detail, and multi-path services. I'm again emphasizing this is purely with respect to our service provider networks. Then the second last section is about automation and assurance, how the new programmability concepts comes or are applied in our service provider networks. What are different tools? For example, YangSuit is one of them. NSO, Network Service Orchestrator, is one of them. So that we'll be covering over here. Okay, how these different concepts like Yang model, NetConf API, RESTConf API, they are stitching together to achieve the benefits of automation and assurance over here. That will cover. Last is our security section. This security part in the curriculum, it is not mentioned separately, but it was mentioned along with section 1 itself, architecture. But yeah, that will be covering along with here. It includes our management plane security, data plane security, as well as control plane security. All three will be covering over here, all the concepts as well as their implementation. All right. So as a prerequisite, it is expected that each one of you at least must have CCNA level of knowledge. You must be able to understand the routing concepts. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Little bit difficult. You will have to put more effort. Okay. And in case a person is already working in a service provider network, that is study advantage for you. Regarding our methodology, we'll be doing the like this instructor-led lectures, and they will be recorded also. You can watch them later on. Okay. If in case you are not able to attend, the recording will be available to you. You can watch them anytime. And in the next class, you can also ask the question. We will be doing some whiteboarding and notepad files and these PowerPoint slides I'll be using, as well as we'll be doing the hands-on using EVNG as our simulator, along with Wireshark outputs that will be seen. Okay, there is as such no single prescribed book for this course. However, there will be multiple books that I'll be following. What all I'll be following, I'll share it. That's not a problem. Okay, for hands-on lab, yes, you will be getting our rack access. All the labs that we will be doing, it will be available to you. You can practice them anytime you want. You will have your individual logins. And this is also very much critical that you do hands-on as much as possible. So theory and practical, I believe it's more important than knowing the theory. Knowing the theory is also important, but doing the practical makes you more confident and more robust knowledge. Anybody have any questions?
So one thing, like I have gone, like you have shared the agenda, like what are the content we cover. So I've seen that mostly it is similar, like which like we do CCNP and RCN core. It is more like similar. Only the ISIS part is there. So is there any advantage of doing SPCOR? If we do, if any additional thing we learn from it.
Yeah, in my opinion, it will be completely different. Not completely, but at least I can say 60% of the topics are relatively different than in core or NRC. You will be having only OSPF that is common, or the basic concepts of BGP. Otherwise, ISIS is not there in our N4 or NRC. Segment routing is not there. MPLS also, if you check, that is only the concept wise. There is no practical that needs to be done for your N4 or NRC. However, I mean, sometimes as a trainer, we cover MPLS also as a hands-on. But if you check the curriculum, it only says that describe the concepts of MPLS or describe LDP. That here you need to implement all those things. Similarly, these traffic engineering concepts that are also not there in our N4 or NRC. Okay, now, I
Need one.
mean, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. I am.
Okay. So this segment routing is completely different. I mean, you can say this as a advanced version of our traditional MPLS. MPLS, if you know, this comes into picture around year 2000 or so. It's already, I mean, 2 decades that we have MPLS. Now things are moving away from traditional LTP-based network towards segment routing. Most of the service providers globally, they are moving away from LTP towards segment routing. So only this course will cover all those concepts. Okay, what else? I mean, these services definitely they are not part of our N4 and NRC, and these NSO or Yang suit, whatever I was telling you. So this is more aligned towards. I mean, yeah, this you can say that these are applicable to our N4 NRC also or data center also because these are just a tool or for example API. Using API, mean, you can access your plain enterprise devices also or your SD-WAN domain also, your Epic controller also. But how these technologies, how these concepts are applicable to our service provider network that are part of this course. Similarly, this security part also, this is more or less applicable to our service provider.
Got it.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, hi. I think I joined a bit late. I'm not sure your name. Is it Gaurav? I know.
Yes, my name is Gaurav.
Okay. Gaurav, we'll be covering as a part of service multicast also here.
Multicast is also. Yes. Multicast with respect to service provider.
Okay, all PIM,
Content.
everything, right? Yeah. IGMP PIM, everything.
Yes.
So it will be completely covering 35501 exam topics.
Exactly. This
Exam.
course is, I mean, 35501, the code number, whatever.
Oh,
Uh,
the concentration should be on the next one, like that topic also will be covering.
I'm sorry, say again, Ramita.
Concentration exam, like
Oh, yeah,
355.
SPCOR, correct. This is for service provider for concentration.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, hi, good morning. This is Ramesh calling from Lucknow, UP.
Yes, Ramesh.
Uh, can you see the previous slide where you have to given the 3 points? Yeah, and just want to about the security concerns. Is there any securities? Is little bit security options is there in a score because it's correlated to the firewall also.
No, it's not about firewall. Let me clarify. This is about our uh, the devices that we have in our service provider network. Primarily, we have routers, iOS XR router or iOS XE router. So their control plane security, for example, BGP prefix suppression, control plane protection, BGP TTL security, protocol authentication. Similarly, in LDP, what kind of security we can have, authentication or label filtering, okay, BGP flow spec. These all concepts will be part of our syllabus. Similarly, in our management plane security, AAA, TACAX authentication, DDoS protection, how we can implement. Okay, what does that mean? What are the best practices of applying security within your service provider? It nowhere talks about your firewall. Just to clarify you.
Okay. Just because previously we are attending the INCORE and NRT course that security option is also there. It's just like the we control from the router only. perspective, router perspective only.
It is router. Yeah, it is only router perspective. In NCore, yes, I agree. There are concept-wise we cover that it is part of NCore syllabus to cover the firewall concepts or security concepts in the enterprise network. However, in service provider core curriculum, it is not there.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Anybody else having any other question?
Hello.
Yes, Ramesh.
What is the course duration?
Course duration, I mean, yes, I expect it will take around 60 to 80 hours. Okay, and we'll be doing it on weekend, I mean 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday. So depending upon that, we'll be able to cover it within 3 to 4 months.
I have a basic knowledge of CCN. Or can understand this service provider concept.
You have a basic knowledge of what?
CCNA. I'm working as a network NOC engineer.
Okay.
Can I
Are you
understand this?
are you are you working in a service provider network?
I'm not into service provider. I'm into network NOC monitoring.
Enterprise network, or I mean, what kind of network are you monitoring?
Enterprise monitoring.
Enterprise monitoring. So see, I mean, you will have to put extra effort. That I'm telling you upfront, and because day in day out you won't be able to see all these things in your day-to-day work. But definitely you will be getting the labs. You can try it at your own, whatever we will be covering along in the class. Post that you will be getting the rack access. You can practice it at your own. But I'll try my best to cover it from the basics so that anybody who does not have service provider exposure, they'll be able to understand it.
Okay. How about the job opportunities for the complete service provider courses?
Sorry, Ramesh, can you repeat your question?
How about the job opportunities for people who complete service provider courses?
Job opportunity you are asking?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, job opportunity wise, I believe there are number of service providers who are, I mean, who are there within India as well as globally, and there are different companies like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, who work for global service providers also. I mean, as like you are working in a network operations center, they have their own NOC, uh, NOC engineers who work as a level 1, level 2, level 3 engineers, as well as there are designing opportunities that are there. So opportunity wise, I think there is a good yeah, opportunities that we have.
Okay. Just asking a personal question. Yeah. How much package you can expect after finishing this course?
That's a difficult question. I may not be able to answer this question directly because that depends on so many factors. It's very difficult to tell you. Package wise, there is no such
I
limit.
can say like there is no limit.
No
I
limit.
people more than 50 also.
Yeah, no limit.
In service provider field?
Yes, in service provider.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody have any other questions before we start? Okay. No questions. Then begin with some basic concepts.
Hello.
Yes, please.
So any prerequisite to do this certification for this course?
Yeah, prerequisite. I mentioned that a person should be at least having knowledge about CCNA and basic routing switching knowledge. Switching, if he does not have, that's okay. But at least basic routing knowledge, CCNA level, one must possess. And if someone is already working in a service provider domain, it will be an added advantage for you.
Okay, thank you.
Let's start with basic IP v4 concepts. Let's say that we have uh, you all have hands-on experience also. Anybody who does not have, who never log into the router or never log into the router? Anyone?
I believe sir all
Okay.
working on network devices.
Okay. Good. That's good. So let's talk about basic IPv4 concepts. Assume that within our network we have 4 different sites. Okay. Let's say site A, site B, site C, and site D. Okay. On each site, this is different geographical locations that I mean to say. Okay. In each site, you must be having a router, let's say a WAN router, and certain WAN switches. Behind this, you must be having certain users. Right. Now, assume that you are a network administrator or you are a network engineer who is managing this 4 sites, and you have to think about how to interconnect these 4 sites together. Can someone tell me, I mean, what could be the options? Or what will be in your mind when you try to decide which, how shall I connect or how shall I interconnect all these 4 sites?
Connect with the service provider with the MPLS, which is providing by lease line. MPLS VPN by
We
service
can
provider.
use MPLS VPN. Okay. What else?
As well as we can connect with the internet, use VPN also.
Okay. Then also you are using any service provider, but via internet. Anything else?
Through ISIS protocol.
Protocol. Okay. I'll protocol on this site. Let's say ISI. So this is our protocol. Before protocol, if you think about what could be the physical layer options or what could be the architecture level things, any other option? Can anybody suggest? Okay. Can I have lease line?
Yeah, lease line, dedicated lease line.
Dedicated lease line. Correct. So I may ask for a point-to-point line between here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, or like this also, isn't it? This could be another option. Then I can have a dial-up access, ISDN, or PSTN. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Let's restrict here itself and think. Let's try to compare all these 4 options. Where will we use dial-up or ISDN? Or before that, how much bandwidth you will be able to achieve via an ISDN line? Anybody
Maximum
aware?
2 Mbps. Maximum 2 Mbps. Maximum 2 Mbps. 1.44. 1.544.
1.544.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of line is this one.
So it will be your traditional telephone lines where
KBPS,
the
yes.
availability is not there. So you can use this dial-up because traditional telephone line will be available always.
Correct. Okay. So one is our traditional telephone line, that is also known as PSTN, Public Switch
PSTN.
Telephone Network. So availability of PSTN network will be more as compared to any other option, definitely, right? But PSTN can give us only 64 to 128 kbps of bandwidth. If I use ISDN, this is a digitized version, digital version, integrated services digital network. In ISDN, we have two options. One is your BRI, basic rate interface, and one is your PRI, primary rate interface. In BRI, I can have 16 plus 64 plus 64. These are three different channels. These are two data channels, and this is your control channel. These numbers are again kbps. Okay, from one BRI line, I can achieve 128 kbps of bandwidth. I can club multiple, but definitely this will again be a dial-up access. Right? Similarly, PRI in India or in Asia, it is even lines. Okay, in Europe also it's even lines. In US, you must have heard about T1 lines. So T1 is about 2 Mbps and T1 is 1.544 Mbps that we can achieve. But this also have different channels. Around 30 channels we have in even lines. Each channel is 64 kbps. Correct. So first thing is this is dial-up. As and when required, you can dial up over here. Once your connection is established, on top of that, you will be able to transfer your data. But since it is dial-up, then it may have, the charges will be as long as you are connected, it is being charged. As like our PSTN network. As long as my call is established, I'm being charged per minute or whatever call duration. Yeah. Same way in our dial-up also. But definitely, you can see that first challenge is it is not always up. You have to establish the connection and then only you will be able to transfer your data. Second challenge is less number of, less bandwidth is there. So can you tell me one of the use case of dial-up access? Where can we use dial-up access? If you have seen in your past experience, you can share that also. No? Yeah, Imran, you want to say something?
Voice over connectivity.
Voice over connectivity. What does that mean?
I mean your PRI connections, telephone lines.
Yeah, telephone lines, correct. Yeah, that's a common use case. However, in a data network, do you think of any use case that comes to your mind that we may use dial-up access for that particular use case for data network? I'm asking. Okay. Have you heard about out-of-band management? Can anybody tell me what is out-of-band management? Okay, no problem. Let's say I'm sitting in my NOC, Network Operations Center. Okay, from your NOC, you have, let's say this is your service provider, and you have a connection in your NOC also in the same, domain. You can reach out to all these sites. But let's say this connection is down. Does that mean your network is down? No.
No.
Your inter-site connectivity may be up, but The engineer sitting in your NOC, he may not be able to see all these sites. He may not be able to log into these devices. Or your NMS system, which is placed over here, from where you are monitoring your network, entire network and the devices, he may not be able to reach to these devices, isn't it? So in such scenarios, what will happen? I mean, how will you ensure that uh, whether the site is up or not? How will you make sure? What will be the way? For example, one site is isolated. You are not able to reach that site. What will be your step to troubleshoot that?
First, we will go through the ISP and ask the ISP the connection is established or not. There is any connectivities available or over there or not.
Okay. And let's say ISP is also not able to reach this site. Assume that this site is isolated somehow. Isolated means you don't have reachability. That's how you say that this is not. Has been isolated. Only
If you have a connectivity with your NOC data center, and you will be reachable from all sites from the ISP, which connectivity you have taken from the ISP. Suppose that primary in the NOC location, I think there is a gateway also, I mean, backup link also available there.
Okay.
So
Correct.
once link is down, then we have to backup link for the reachability to our site. That's our
Okay. Let's redraw this topology. Assume that this is your service provider network. Okay. All these 4 sites does have a WAN connectivity via the same service provider. And your NOC also have one connectivity to the same service provider via which you are reaching all these sites. Right? Now assume that this link is down from here. Okay, this link is down from here. So what will you see? The person sitting in your NOC, he won't be able to access this site A router. Yes or no?
No, he will not be connected until unless he will have a backup link.
Until unless he will have a backup. Now, what kind of backup will you have? Let's say this is your 10 Mbps link. All the WAN links for all the 4 sites, you kept as 10 Mbps link. Right? Now, that depends upon your site criticality, whether you want to have a backup link or not. So, let's say one of the use case could be, I can provision a dial-up access as a backup. Right? Second use case can be your out-of-band management. There are 2 kinds of management. One is your in-band management, and another one is your out-of-band management. Anybody have idea about the difference between these two, in-band versus out-of-band? I know you must be using day in, day out. Just that
In-band
you
is
need to
SSH.
realize. Sorry, say again.
In-band is SSH or terminal like element, and out of band is via console.
Yeah, little bit. Yeah, partially you are correct. So let's say you are from your NOC, you are accessing this device from this link itself. Okay, whether you are using SSH or Telnet doesn't matter. But the link on which your regular production data is being transferred, and using the same link, if you are accessing your device for management purpose, that is known as your in-band management. In case you would like to have a separate VPN, let's say I put a separate VPN over here. Okay, and in this VPN, I put a separate connectivity to all the 4 sites. The bandwidth of this VPN is, let's say, 512 kbps only. Blue one. Okay, it is purely for your management purpose. It's a separate VPN, or it may be via a different service provider. Then this kind of management is known as your out-of-band management. This is purely for your management purpose. Log into the devices, getting the management plane data over there. However, your production data is not being carried over this separately. Then it is known as out-of-band management.
Like nowadays, we have a separate management port on the routers or devices.
Yeah, you will definitely use a separate management port, or you may use the same port, but let's say sub interface, you put it different. Okay, that could be, I mean, the ways of achieving could be different, but as long as your production traffic and your management traffic are not traversing via same link, they are being kept separate. That is known as your out-of-band management. Does that make sense? So usually you put your dial-up connections in order to provide your out-of-band management access. It may happen that your site has been isolated because this link has gone down. So you may have a 3G or 4G connection over here, to which you can dial up and log into this device. Okay, that is another use case of a dial-up access. Because you may not require it to be up always. It is your last resort when all your primary and backup link both have gone down. How to access this device? Either you will be sending somebody to this site, send an engineer to that site, but that may require more effort, more time, and more cost also. So in some of the scenarios or some of the networks, you may have a dial-up access for your out-of-band network. Anybody have any questions before we move further? Let me. Now, can anybody tell me about lease lines? What do you understand by a lease line?
See, these are the dedicated lines which you have to pay for extra, and it will only carry your traffic, and it will be available always for you. And it is a point-to-point line. This is what I know.
Yes. So multiple things you have to. One is your dedicated, next is your point-to-point, and you said cost will be more. Okay, all the things are true. Point-to-point, dedicated bandwidth, and costly solution. Right? Anything else that comes to your mind with these lines, please?
As it is dedicated and only carry your traffic, so bandwidth will be more. Means a fixed amount of bandwidth, whatever they offer
Fixed
you.
amount of
Yeah, they will give you.
dedicated. Okay. Now assume this is your service point. Okay. From this site to, let's say, site C, you need a lease line. What may happen that you will provision a lease line from here to here, and then within its own core network, he will basically make a switched circuit and then connect you. So for you it will be a point-to-point line from here till here. You are not aware about what all devices are coming in the path, isn't it? You will only see that the other end of this device, if I send anything from here, if I send an echo message, this side should be able to receive directly without bothering about which all devices are coming in between. Yes or no? And are you aware about, I hope you must have heard about that DC device, DP device kind of things. Modems, lease line modems. So usually what happens whenever we ask a service provider to provide me a lease line, he will put a lease line modem over here. Okay, modem is nothing but your modulation demodulation. Another modem, a pair of, I mean, this will always be in a pair. Another modem will be over here. Okay, one will modulate, another will demodulate those signals. And post that, it will be having its entire infrastructure of your SPH or whatever technology they are using, they'll be covering over here. Okay, from this modem itself, they'll be controlling how much bandwidth or how much data rate I have provided on this lease line. Same way on the other side also, you will have a modem over here, and at your side also, you will have a modem. Okay, but yes, since it is dedicated, it is more costly. You need not to bother about any quality of service or all those things, because this is, let's say, your 2 Mbps link. So definitely at any point of time, you will be getting this 2 Mbps link or bandwidth across these two sites. What else comes to your mind? Let's say you have achieved this lease line connection between these two sites. Now what? Or in our initial example, we have 4 different sites. You have 4 sites to be connected. How many lease line would you require to interconnect all these?
4 link
Okay. From where to where?
from a ISP service provider to dedicated branch location.
No, we are assuming that this is not point to multi-point. We are assuming this is point to point line.
Point to point, if we have required, then where we have located in our data center, so we can connect with data center or 4 locations to the
Okay. So
connectivity.
either you will dedicate one of the site as your hub site. From there itself, you will have this kind of connectivity. 3 different lease lines. Yes or no? And they will act as a spoke. So this is one of your topology, hub and spoke. Okay. Otherwise, let's say if you want to have full mesh, any to any, so you may require this kind of connectivity. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many lease lines? 4, 6. Total 6 lease lines you will require. 6 point-to-point dedicated line. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now think of add another site. I want to expand my business. I'm adding another site, site E. Then in that scenario, I will require 4 more lease lines,
Connection.
right? And you can assume how costly it will become. Because lease line is always a costlier solution. So cost is one of the factors. Do you guys agree that cost will drastically increase when the size of our network will increase? Is that clear with everyone? I mean, how cost is going to increase?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Next,
more cost is going to increase.
right? Now, next thing is the all IP addressing. Who is managing this IP addressing?
By service provider.
No, you are managing. Service provider is giving you layer one link between these two sites. We are talking about lease line only. It's a point-to-point line that they have given. Now, what IP
Yeah.
address you want to configure over here, it's up to you. You have to design or you have to manage that IP address, right? Second, routing. Shall I use static routing? Shall I use OSPF, ISI, CAGRP, RIP, whatever you want? You can use. You have independence, but you have to manage your routing. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Who is managing this network now?
Customer.
Network management.
Network administrator.
So this company who is owning this routers or links, they will be managing this network. By managing, I mean to say monitoring, proper, fault management, configuration management, and your network analysis, automation, assurance, everything has to be done by this company. Definitely, if it has to be done, it will require resources. Okay. What else? Anything else coming to your mind? Do you understand CapEx, capital expenditure, and operational expenditure? So all these resources that we would require to manage this network, to configure or to design this network, you will require network engineers, network architects, right? You will have to have your own network operation center, or you will, I mean, give this job to any third-party service provider like Wipro, Infosys, TCS, whatever, who wants to manage your network for you. They can also provide you those services, but they all come in your operational expenditure, right? Now, what is capital expenditure? Who is going to buy all these routers? This company has to buy, right? So let's say we are just talking about 5 different sites. Let's say you have 100 plus sites. So on each 100 site or all the sites, you will have to deploy these routers. You will have to buy all these stuff. So that is again a capital expenditure for you. The rent that you are paying for these lease lines, that will be your operational expenditure. The salary that we will be giving to our engineers, that is your operational expenditure. The electricity monthly bill that you will be paying to keep them up, their air conditioning or their infrastructure cost, that is your operational expense. So every company may not want to spend so much amount. That's where service providers thought, can we take all these complexity and we as a service provider, we manage these devices, we will provide you these links, whatever you want, point to multi-point, any to any, whatever topology you want. We will manage your routing part. We will manage your IP addressing. Everything we will manage. Till this point, let's say now, till this point, all these 4 site routers that are provisioned on this customer side, if let's say these are managed by your service provider, how easy will be the life of this company? Let's say this is your company name ABC. They have their own business. They may not be into networking business. They have their own retail chain or something like that. So isn't it? It's an easy for him that you have taken this as a service, network as a service from this service provider. It's his headache to manage all these site devices, to configure them, okay, to monitor them, to spend all the capital expenditure or operational expenditure. You have to bear all those costs. I will only pay a monthly rent for this kind of service. So that's where our service provider network are getting or were got evolved. They came up with a business proposal that we will provide you access in whatever way you want. How many number of sites you want to provision, we will give you. Just as an example, if I think of a package a service provider provides that up to 50 sites, I will provide or I will connect them in a layer 3 VPN, any to any. On each site, you can advertise 20 subnets at max. Okay. And I put, let's say, some cost XYZ monthly that you need to pay to me. Against that, I'll be managing this entire connectivity to you. And there will be certain SLAs, 99% of time that I'll be giving. It's my headache now to manage all these sites, to configure them, their networking part. Only you have to connect your LAN network over here and you will get the connection through. Isn't it? It is easier for a non-networking background company. We may not have to spend so much on buying all these routers, to employ the network engineers to manage all these stuff. It's all being offshored to this service provider. And there are so many service providers within our, in India, primarily, you must have heard Airtel or Jio, they are providing. Any questions? Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. So compared to the lease line model, if we move towards a service provider managed network, this is the contrast between these two. I mean, there are two worlds. One is your service provider world, and another one is our enterprise or your customer world. Till now, whatever we were reading, we were studying about Encore, NRC, that was this world. Okay, enterprise network. Now, if we flip our situation and we come to this side, now we are working for a, let's say, a service provider. And this service provider is providing services to thousands of customers from the same devices, from the same network. So if there is any impact within this network, that is huge. That is not going to impact just one particular site. It may be impacting thousands of customers or end users. Okay, so the criticality of managing a service provider network is far more. The cost associated with, or the impact associated with any outage is far more within a service provider as compared to an enterprise network. Okay, so I just wanted to convey this message that in service provider, it is, I mean, you have to be more cautious while making any changes, while doing any configuration. You have to be more cautious because it may be impacting so many of the end customers that you are having. And they have their own different criticalities. They have their own SLAs. Right? Shall we move? Any questions? Right. And delete this, not just clarity. Now we are moving towards two models, let's say MPLS or internet. Okay, think from a service provider perspective now. Assume these four sites are now your service provider routers. I'll tell this terminology later. Okay, assume these are your four routers, PE1, PE2, PE3, PE4. And somehow they are connected like this. So this is your, assume this is your service provider network. Okay, now there is a customer, let's say SBI, State Bank of India. He says that I want to connect my four branches. Okay, and since I'm a banking customer, I don't have any network engineers to manage those. So it's up to you. You provide me the services, you manage my network, you deploy that. Okay, I'll only pay you the monthly rent. Okay, fine. What will happen is, okay, at the SBI site A, let's say, a router has been provisioned. This is customer edge router. C stands for customer edge. This is at your customer premises. Okay, assume these are our four SBI branches on which these C routers has been provisioned. Whatever routing protocol I'm using over here, I can use. It's okay. I will provide them connectivity. Can anyone tell me just the basic one? How shall I provide this connectivity? We are only talking about basics. I'm not going into detail. Okay, we are just trying to think about why or how this is getting evolved. It's very important to understand rather, I mean, simply jumping onto ISIS, OSPF, BGP. It's more important to understand why. So please, can anyone tell me, I mean, let's say as a service provider, I have to connect all these four sites. How will I do? Okay, no one. Let us make it more simpler. Let's say within these devices, I have to run any routing protocol. Yes or no?
Yes, IGP.
Can I,
Yes.
if I don't run any IGP, do I have any other way?
Static.
Static route. Okay. Static versus IGP. Pros and cons. Can anyone tell me? If I use static routing, if I don't use static routing or I use IGP or any dynamic routing protocol, what will be the comparison between these?
Static, you have